My name's Aaron. I'm 34, and for the past 7 years, I've been what my family affectionately calls the reliable one. You know the type, pays bills on time, always answers calls, shows up during emergencies, and manages all the behind-the-scenes chaos so nobody else has to. I never sought out this role, never volunteered for it, but I gradually eased into it, much like many eldest siblings do. One missed bill here, one, hey, could you just cover this one time there? Eventually, it wasn't just a favor. It became an expectation. For a long time, I let it slide. Honestly, it was simpler than confronting them. But then came last weekend. My nephew Tyler turned 10. He's a sweet kid, funny, bright, a bit reserved in crowds, but absolutely lights up around animals. I adore him. Every year, I go above and beyond to make his birthday memorable, especially since my sister Jenna and her husband Travis have a knack for last-minute planning and even later payments. Last year, they tried to book a venue the week of the party. It was canceled the night before. I ended up reserving a backup indoor trampoline park, $1,600 out of my own pocket, just to spare the kids the crushing disappointment. They never reimbursed me, not even a thank you card. This year, I prepaid the venue again, an animal petting farm Tyler had mentioned once in passing. I remembered because he'd glowed when he talked about goats, and I thought, why not? I also contributed to the cake, the food truck, and the rented tables and chairs. Jenna never explicitly asked, of course. She'd just text things like, we'll need more chairs, can you handle that? Or food truck wants a deposit, should I give them your info? I handled it because I didn't want Tyler to suffer due to his parents' flakiness. But something had been simmering inside me, a growing pressure, a quiet, chilling realization that I wasn't appreciated, merely utilized. I think deep down, I knew this party would be the breaking point. It began pleasantly enough, kids running through the yard, goats bleating, and Tyler genuinely happy, which almost made it all worthwhile. Almost I tried to stay out of the way, helped arrange some tables, gave the food truck guy an extra tip, handed out water bottles. Then came cake time. Everyone gathered near the patio where Jenna had arranged a folding table for desserts. She wore one of those flowy, bright boho maxi dresses, looking like she was auditioning for an Instagram parenting reel. Travis stood behind her, sporting his usual smirk, nursing a plastic cup of soda, acting as if he'd contributed something significant to the moment. Jenna sliced the cake, handed a few pieces to the kids, then turned to me with a tight smile. Here, she said, offering me a slice. The least I can do, since you're always buying your way into being the favorite. I just blinked. What? She chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. You know, buying stuff doesn't make you special, Aaron. You're just the family wallet. That's all you've ever been, Travis snickered, as if she'd uttered something profoundly witty. It's true, man, he chimed in. Gotta admit, it's convenient. You always swoop in and save the day. I stood there for a second, holding that ridiculous plate of cake, looking between them. My mom was a few feet away, tidying napkins. She glanced over, heard enough to grasp the situation, and mumbled, without looking up, "Let it go, Aaron. It's not worth it. Not today. Just let it go." Words I'd heard when they borrowed my car and returned it with a smashed bumper. When they accidentally used my Amazon account to order a $900 iPad for Tyler's school, when Travis lost his job for the 3rd time, and I co-signed a private school loan because Tyler deserved better. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I looked down at the cake, then over at the gift table where a large white envelope sat, my envelope. Inside was a certified check, the final payment for Tyler's next semester at that private academy. They hadn't thanked me. They hadn't even told Tyler it was from me. I'd overheard Jenna telling someone it was a family gift. I gently placed the plate on the table, walked to the gift pile, and picked up the envelope. "What are you doing?" Jenna asked, a mix of amusement and confusion in her voice. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't create a scene. I just spoke clearly enough for her, Travis, and anyone nearby to hear. "Good luck covering next semester." I just canceled the payment. She blinked, stunned. "What?" I turned and started walking away. "You can't just do that," she yelled, a hint of panic creeping into her voice. "Aaron, you promised." "I never promised," I said without looking back. "You assumed. Big difference." I was halfway down the gravel driveway, when I heard footsteps pounding behind me. I didn't need to turn to know it was Travis, and I knew, just knew, that whatever he was about to say wouldn't be an apology. He caught up to me near the gate, slightly out of breath, face flushed. "Hey, come on, man, don't do this. We're family." I paused at the word family, the word they all tossed around like duct tape, meant to patch over every insult, every manipulation, every broken promise. I slowly turned. Travis stood there, hands on his hips, as if about to deliver a pep talk. I could see him trying to inflate himself, shoulders squared, chin held high, just like he'd looked when he'd cornered me at Thanksgiving to ask for a small bridge loan that turned out to be 15 grand. He wasn't angry yet, just desperate enough to pretend we were a unified front. "Look," he said, lowering his voice as if we were co-conspirators. "I know Jen says stuff sometimes, but you know how she gets when she's stressed. It's not personal, man, not personal." I raised an eyebrow. "She called me a wallet. She was joking." "No, you laughed because you agreed." He opened his mouth to protest, but I stepped forward, not aggressively, just close enough that he instinctively took a half step back. "You think I don't notice?" I asked. "The way you only call when you need something. The way you both talk about me like I'm some backup generator that kicks in when you screw up." His face twitched. The casual mask cracked for a second. "That tuition payment," I added. "I made it last week, then I canceled it right before I left the party. The school's already been notified. They'll expect full payment by the end of the month." His lips parted, stunned. "You can't. Tyler needs that school." I nodded. "Yeah, he does. And it's a shame his parents were too busy running their mouths to realize the person keeping him there was standing right in front of them." He reached out suddenly, perhaps to grab my arm, perhaps just to make a point, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said sharply. "We're done, Travis. I'm not paying another bill. Not a penny. Not for school, not for rent, not for emergencies. You're a grown man. Figure it out." He dropped his hand, eyes darting around as if expecting someone to rush out and back him up, but no one did. Behind us, the party music still played faintly, and the laughter of kids echoed across the yard. He looked like a man locked out of his house in the rain. "You know," he muttered bitterly, "it must be nice having money. Must be real easy looking down on everyone else when you've never had to struggle." That hit a nerve. "I work 70-hour weeks," I snapped. "I skipped vacations, skipped relationships, skipped entire years of my life so I could build something. You think I'm lucky? You think this?" I waved a hand toward the driveway, toward the new car parked at the end, "just fell into my lap while you were sleeping in and job hopping. I was eating tuna from a can and coding websites in a basement at 3 a.m. Travis went quiet, not ashamed, just quiet. His jaw clenched, but there was no comeback this time. "I'm not mad that you needed help," I said, my voice softening slightly. "I'm mad that you took it for granted, that Jenna made a speech about how we paid for everything, that your kid doesn't even know who really kept the lights on." He looked away. "Tell her I'm done. I finished. Tell your wife that the wallet just closed." I turned and walked away, passing the long line of parked cars. I could still hear him standing there, but he didn't follow. When I got into my car and shut the door, the silence hit me harder than I expected. No one had ever chased after me before, not when I left family dinners early, not when I stopped texting back for a week, not even when I skipped Father's Day after Mom told me I owed it to the family to make peace with Dad after he called me a disappointment. I sat there, engine off, hands on the wheel, just breathing. It wasn't just about the money. It never was. It was about being needed only when I could be used, about feeling like the price of being accepted was measured in wire transfers and gift receipts. And I had finally hit my limit. My phone buzzed. Jenna first. A missed call, then a text. "What did you do?" "Tyler's crying." The school called, "You're ruining everything." I stared at it for a second. Then another came in. "Come back and fix this. You're being ridiculous." And another, "If you don't care about us, at least think about Tyler." Then a call from my mom. I let it ring. 10 seconds later, a message popped up. "You need to apologize. We don't treat family like this." I laughed out loud, alone in the car. I typed back, "Exactly." I hit send, then turned the key, started the car, and pulled away from the party I'd paid for, but wasn't invited to anymore. I didn't know what would come next. I knew they'd panic, that there would be voicemails and guilt trips, and maybe even a surprise visit or two, but I was done pretending, and I hadn't even gotten to step 2 yet. By the time I pulled into my driveway, it was almost sunset. The sky was that surreal orange pink that softened everything, as if the world had decided to put a filter over my messy day. I parked in silence, engine humming down, and just sat there, my phone still lit up in my hand. More missed calls, a few voicemails. One from Jenna that started with a fake sweet, "I just want to talk," and ended with a hissed, "You're unbelievable." Another from Mom, long and guilt-laced, talking about how families don't keep score. I didn't delete them. I didn't even listen to all of them. I just closed the app, shoved my phone into the glove compartment, and locked the car. I didn't want to go inside right away. My place was nice, quiet, clean, mine. But the silence in there was heavier than usual. It had always been that way after family events. The noise would drain out, and I'd be left alone with that old ache. The one that whispered, maybe I really wasn't built for all that warmth and chaos. Maybe I was only ever invited to keep things functioning. But today, for the first time, the ache felt different. It felt honest. I took the long way around the house, walking through my backyard instead of the front door. I'd landscaped it myself a few years ago, laid the stones, built the tiny deck, strung up soft solar lights that flicked on automatically as the sun dipped. I poured a glass of water from the outdoor tap, sat in one of the wooden chairs, and just listened to the wind for a while. I thought about Tyler. I really did. Not Jenna, not Travis, not even Mom, just Tyler. That kid deserved better parents. But more than that, he deserved the truth, not some version of reality they'd cobbled together to make themselves look good. He was smart. He'd figure it out eventually. I just hoped he wouldn't be too jaded when he did. Eventually, I stood up and went inside. That's when I opened the drawer in my office and pulled out the second envelope, the one Jenna and Travis didn't know existed, the one I'd prepared after they forgot to reimburse me for the last medical emergency. When Tyler broke his arm and they claimed they weren't covered anymore, inside the envelope were receipts, contracts, and a neat little spreadsheet tracking every dime I'd spent on their family since 2019. It included everything: school fees, hospital bills, party rentals, car repairs, groceries, even the hotel room I booked for them during a hurricane evacuation they didn't bother to thank me for. In total, it came out to $61,437.88, give or take a few cents. But that wasn't the crucial part. The crucial part was the email I'd scheduled to go out that morning. Not to them, no, that would have been too easy. It went to the school administrator, the financial aid director, and one of my old college friends who now worked for the school's board. The email simply explained that I was no longer associated with Tyler's tuition, but I was deeply concerned that he might suffer academically. Due to his parents' financial misrepresentation, it offered to send a full breakdown of prior payments under my name, as well as to provide contact information for someone who could verify the circumstances. That friend, he'd already replied hours before the party even started. "Thanks for the heads up. This explains a lot. I'll have a word with the director. Also, wow, they really did this to you." I replied back with a smiley face and the line, "Long story. I'll buy you coffee next week." I didn't want to take anything from Tyler. That wasn't my goal. But if Travis and Jenna were going to keep pretending the world owed them for their failures, someone had to break the pattern. I couldn't keep covering for them while they taught that kid to do the same thing. So I took the envelope, scanned everything in, and dropped it into a shared folder labeled for when they lie again. I didn't know when I'd use it. Maybe never. Maybe next week. But it was there, and it felt like armor. The next day, the storm truly hit. Jenna showed up at my place around 11 a.m., uninvited, of course. I watched her from the upstairs window before she even rang the bell. She was pacing on the front step, like she wasn't sure whether to scream or cry. Eventually, she knocked. I waited 5 seconds, then 10, then opened the door slowly. Her expression was a chaotic mix: shock, hurt, fury, and somewhere beneath it all, real fear, the kind that only shows up when the safety net is finally, truly gone. "Aaron," she started, her voice thin, as if she were trying to make herself small. "Please, we need to talk." "I don't think we do." "Tyler's school is calling," she said, stepping forward. "They're saying things about payments being canceled, about financial aid being denied. What did you do? I told them the truth, I said, that I'm not his parent, that I've been paying for him out of guilt and obligation, but that I'm not responsible for your life anymore. She stared at me, stunned. You can't just walk away. I already did. Her eyes welled with tears. What about Tyler? You're punishing him for what we did. No, I said quietly. I'm teaching him what accountability. It looks like that's when her face changed. The anger flared back. You think this makes you the good guy? I think it makes me free. She opened her mouth to argue again, but I didn't give her the chance. Jenna, I said, go home and tell Travis this was step one. Then I closed the door. I didn't hear from Jenna or Travis for 3 full days after that. 3 glorious days of quiet. No buzzing phone, no guilt-laced texts, no fake apologies or frantic pleases pretending to be about Tyler. Just silence. I took long walks, cooked dinner like I actually had time to savor it, slept deeply for the first time. In what felt like years, I didn't feel like I was bracing for someone else's disaster. And then, on day 4, came the voicemail from my mom. Aaron, I'm coming over tomorrow. We're going to talk about this. I'm not letting you tear this family apart. That's when I knew it was time for step 2. Step 2 wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It didn't involve shouting matches or locked doors. It was just ... clean. The next morning, before Mom showed up, I gathered every financial record I had. Bank transfers, canceled checks, contracts, even the old emails where Jenna had sent me. PayPal requests labeled urgent and please just this once. I put it all in a neat little binder. Then I pulled out another envelope, this one sealed and addressed to my lawyer. Inside was a notarized letter I'd had prepared a year ago. When I first started getting the creeping sense that someday I'd need to protect myself, the letter revoked my informal financial responsibility for any member of my extended family and outlined how no further payments were to be made from my accounts on anyone's behalf, just in case things escalated. It also included a formal notification that, as of that date, I was resigning from the trust my dad had named me executive of because, surprise, even after all this, they still planned to make me the one responsible for distributing family assets when the time came, no more. I texted my lawyer to confirm receipt. He wrote back, smart move, about time. Then, with everything filed and sent, I waited. Mom arrived at noon. She didn't knock, just walked in like she always had. That was the first thing I noticed how normal it felt, how routine. She swept in like this was her house, like I was still 16 and she was here to tell me to clean my room or help set the table. But when she saw the binder sitting on the kitchen counter, her face shifted. What's this? I gestured. Everything I've paid for since 2019. Itemized, receipts included. I thought it might help make the next conversation easier. She flipped through a few pages, frowning. Why are you doing this? Because you said I was tearing the family apart? I figured if we're going to talk about that, we should look at the facts. She closed the binder and gave me one of those tired mom-size, the kind, meant to imply I was being dramatic, overthinking, ungrateful. You're missing the point, she said. It's not about money. It's about love, about helping each other. I laughed. Is that what this is, Mom? Love. Because if this is what love looks like, I want no part of it. She sat down across from me, her expression hardening. You've always been the strong one, the capable one. That's why we leaned on you. You make things look easy. Maybe we forgot to say thank you every time, but that doesn't mean we didn't appreciate it. That's the problem, I said, calm but sharp. You didn't forget to say thank you. You just decided you didn't need to anymore. There was a long pause. She didn't deny it. I'm not going to ruin my life so the rest of you can avoid cleaning up yours, I said. I love Tyler, but Jenna and Travis, ... they crossed a line. Mom shook her head slowly. So what? You're just cutting us all off? I leaned forward. No, I'm just taking back control of my time, my money, my sanity. If you need something, you ask. I'll think about it. But the era of me being the silent safety net, it's over. She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she stood, smoothed her sweater and said, I hope you can live with this. I smiled. I'm counting on it. She left without another word. 2 weeks passed. I didn't hear from anyone, not even Tyler. Then one evening, I got a knock on the door. Not Jenna, not Travis, Tyler. 10 years old, wearing his school backpack, standing nervously on my porch. "Hey," he said. I don't think I was supposed to come." I crouched down to meet him at eye level. "You're always welcome here, buddy." "What's up?" He hesitated. "They're fighting a lot, Mom and Dad. About the school, about money, about you." I nodded slowly. "That's not your fault." "I know," he said, but didn't sound convinced. I just ... I wanted to say thank you for the party and the school and stuff. I swallowed. "You don't have to thank me, Tyler. I did it because I care about you." He looked down. "They said you don't anymore." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's not true, but sometimes when adults make bad choices, the people who've been covering for them have to stop, or else the cycle keeps going forever. Do you understand?" He nodded slowly. Then his eyes brightened. "Can I still come hang out sometimes?" "Of course," I said, pulling him into a hug. Any time that night, we made mac and cheese watched an old movie, played cards until his mom called looking for him. She didn't say much, just told me to send him back home. I did, but not before slipping a small envelope into his backpack. Inside was a prepaid debit card, loaded with a modest amount, and a sticky note that read, "4 books, art supplies, or whatever you want, not for your parents. Just for you." I didn't hear a word from Jenna after that, but I didn't need to. Over the next few months, things shifted. I stopped answering family group texts that only appeared when someone needed help. I went back to therapy not because I was falling apart, but because I realized I deserved to process how long I'd spent being the stable one and nothing else. I started traveling, just small trips at first, a cabin near the lake, a flight out to Denver to visit college friends. I left my phone on Do Not Disturb more often than not. At Christmas, I didn't go to the big family dinner. Instead, I took Tyler out for a day in the city, museums, pizza, an arcade. He told me he was thinking about being an architect someday. I told him he'd be great at it. At one point, he looked up at me and said, "You seem happier now." And I realized I was. Not because I'd won some big fight, not because I'd crushed anyone, but because I finally stopped letting guilt dictate my life. I still get the occasional message from Travis, mostly passive-aggressive stuff like, "Wish we could have worked this out like adults," or "Hope you're enjoying your high horse." I don't respond. Jenna stopped pretending completely. I haven't heard from her in months, but that's fine. Let her stew. Let her learn. Let her explain to Tyler one day why his uncle had to step back to keep from drowning. Because I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the one who said no. Finally, and sometimes that's what being the hero really looks like.